With Car Guru's Discover, you can skip the filters and describe what you're looking for in your own words. Simply type what you want, and Car Guru's Discover instantly surfaces real listings that match your exact needs. It's no wonder Car Gurus is the #1 most visited car shopping site according to SimilarWeb's estimated traffic data. Buy or sell your next car today with Car Gurus at CarGurus.com. Go to CarGurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. That's CarGurus.com. CarGurus.com.
Welcome back, Tiger fans, to Rock M Radio's football podcast. I'm Nate Edwards. That's Nathan Hurst, and this is Before the Box Score. Welcome to Texas A&M week. Missouri's coming off of a bye, heading into their first road game of the year. Nathan Hurst, how you doing?
Well, coming off a pretty ignominious loss by my Astros today in the wild card round, and they got knocked out. So I'm, going to have to deal with not making at least the ALCS for the first time in 8 years. I don't know what that's like. So maybe you guys all you other folk can tell me what that's like, because I don't know what it's like. But we'll learn together. So we'll see.
It's all good. I live in St. Louis, so I have to like baseball, but really baseball is a vehicle for me to go eat nachos and drink beer. So I don't.
There are worse ways in your time.
You cannot hurt me with baseball talk. RIP your Astros fandom for this year. I'm sure it'll start up in earnest next spring. So let's talk about Missouri football. We got an interesting story to kick it off with, something that I don't think anybody really anticipated talking about on October 2nd. That's just how the calendar works now. Missouri got a recruit. Got a brand new recruit. This is not, you know what? I'll leave the editorializing out of it. They brought in a guy. His name is Dakota Terrell. He is listed as an athlete. He's listed as a tight end. Just kind of depends on the recruiting service that you want to go with. He is not nationally ranked. He's not positionally ranked. He's not even ranked within his state, really. He's out of Pocola, Oklahoma. I got to get that right. He is 6'9", 215. So, aerodynamic. He committed on the last day of September. So Hurts and I have watched the game film that he has on Huddle.
It is entertaining. I highly recommend anyone look it up and watch it. It is entertaining to watch.
If you are not driving, stop right now, or just put a memo in your phone if you are driving to go watch this. This isn't like some future NFL Pro Bowl or, like just wrecking elite high schoolers. This is like you took a giant and you dropped him into a middle school football league. Again, 6'9", 215. And the competition that he's going against is sparse. Sparse is what I'd call
uncompetitive. There was some uncompetitive football being played, to say it kindly.
I mean, he is 6'9", 215, wide receiver, defensive end, kick returner, punt returner. If you ever want to see a 6'9" gentleman take a jet sweep and run mostly untouched for 80 yards, his game film is for you. How do we feel about this, Hurst?
It's really fun. If you could put a soundtrack to it, it would be Yakety Sax.
Yep.
As you said, the competition in I'm guessing has to be 1A Oklahoma high school football. It can't be any higher than 2A. It was not great. He moves really well for a 6'9" guy. And it looks a little odd to see a guy that tall running down the field like a deer, because he has such a long stride. Now, I'm in no way comparing his athleticism to this guy, but what it reminded me of watching this guy run is Vince Young. Vince Young was about 6'5", 6'6", and when he had the stride when he was running down the field that he took one step for every defender's 2.5 steps, and that's how Vince Young looked like he was running so fast. It's kind of similar. Now, he's not Vince Young by any stretch of the imagination. I watched Vince Young live in high school when I was in high school, and he was in high school. Very different players. But that's kind of what it looks like to watch this guy run down the field, especially when he's being chased by 5'6" guys much slower 5'6" guys, a full foot shorter than him, and they're not coming close to him. So he can run well, at least for a 6'9" guy. Not a whole lot of else to take away from the tape because of the competition. It sounds like the coaches want him to play tight end. He doesn't play tight end in high school, so there's really no tape. There's no highlights of him blocking or anything, because I think their offense consists of, let's let this guy either take it on a jet sweep and run around the side, or run really deep and we'll throw it and he can reach up and he doesn't even have to jump because he's a foot taller than everybody else. He just catches it and then turns around and kind of gallops off after that point. So not a whole lot constructed to take out of the tape, other than it's really entertaining to watch. He's definitely a project. He's a guy that is going to take a couple years of development, not just getting in the weight room, getting in the dining room, because he's going to need to put on 25 or 30 pounds to be a competitive SEC level player. 215 is really light for how tall he is and wanting to play tight end. He's going to have to put some weight on for sure. He's also going to have to just practice technique, blocking technique. When you're that tall, it can be difficult to block unless you're 320 pounds like a left tackle. So he's going to have to learn a lot, regardless of what position he plays, because he's not going to play wide receiver, which is what he plays in high school. Definitely not going to do that. He's kind of honestly, looking at his play, he does play defensive end for his high school team. I almost kind of like him as a really tall defensive end that can knock down. There's a lot of plays where he is shot blocking. I mean, just shot blocking, swatting passes down. It's impossible to get a pass over him if you're a quarterback. And I don't care how tall you are, you're not going to get a pass over him. He probably won't be the bendiest guy around the edge trying to get a sack or anything, but there's something to be said about being that tall and just waving your hands above your head, making it really hard to throw it over you. So I'm not sure where we'll be with him in a couple of years, but it's going to take him a little while to see the field, I think.
Yeah. R.I.P. Dikembe Mutombo, but there's a lot of Mutomboing on Dakota Terrell's tape there. I'm going to throw out a name, Sean Oakman. Do you remember him?
I do.
Taylor defensive end. He was 6'9". I don't know what he was coming out of high school, but he ended up being like 290 pounds.
He ended up being a very, very large, intimidating, jacked, rippling muscles, abs for days. He's 6'9", so he probably had like a 9 pack, or at least a 10 pack. I don't know. He probably needs to be an even number. That dude was built in a way that very few humans are. So he was tall though, and he did get drafted by the NFL. I don't think he ever really did.
No, he did not.
He was a productive college player at that size.
He was not drafted because of a sexual assault.
Oh, that's right. He got some legal trouble that ended up being absolved. He was absolved from, and that kind of derailed his career. Yeah. He was never the best pass rusher in the Big 12, but he was a solid player, and he proved that you could play at that size.
Boy, wow. I am looking at his
He liked to show off his abs.
He did.
I would too if I was 6'9" and had a 12 pack.
As of last year, he did not have those abs. So listen to the teams that he played for. I know we're getting into it. Just work with me. 2017, he signed with the Triangle Torch of the American Arena League. He then went to the Bismarck Bucks of the Champions Indoor Football. Then played for the Austin Generals in the Spring League. That was 2019. The West Virginia Rough Riders, the Los Angeles Wildcats of the XFL. Do you remember fan-controlled football? He was a guy that played for the Wild Aces. And now he's with the Toronto Argonauts. No, the Edmonton Elks. He's in Edmonton now. So
okay, well, so he's actually worked his way up the chain, I guess, if he's all the way up into the CFL at this point.
Yeah.
Well, good for him.
Anyway, that's a long way of saying, put 70 pounds on this guy, and you too can look like a jacked 10-pack defensive end monstrosity. Just keep the sexual assault out. Don't be doing that. But, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But it's not unprecedented to have a pass rusher of that size. So if that's the way you want to go, I think that'd be interesting. I'm a little hesitant on him as tight end just because I can't see it yet because he has a stick. But yeah, if he builds correctly, which I trust the Missouri Nutrition Department to do that a couple of years, he too can be making blocks and catching passes, and probably not taking any jet sweeps or punt returns, but just being a competent football player. So congratulations.
He definitely has the frame to fill out.
Yeah.
And it's there. Now, whether, genetics has a lot to do with that, how much he can actually do and how much work he's willing to put in to do that, but he has the frame to do it. And this isn't just this is a recruit that no one else is recruiting. He has a legitimate offer list. Now, he's not ranked by the services, but he has offers from Arkansas, Boston College, Florida, Michigan, Oklahoma State, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Kansas, Oregon State. Those are all his P4 offers.
Mm-hmm.
And now how many of those are committable? I don't know. Ours was. It's not like we're not taking just anybody that wants to come at these at this point in time. So other schools had interest in him. And I'm sure they saw him as a product as well, but there's something to be said for being really, really tall. And if he does nothing else in his career but run into the end zone and stand there and put his hands above his head and hope and just let whoever's the quarterback at the time throw him the ball.
Yeah.
There are worse ways to fill a roster spot than a guy who can do that.
Yeah.
Especially, we'll talk about it a little bit later today. We've been talking about the red zone struggles of the Mizzou team so far. It'd be nice to have a 6'9" guy that is healthy and can do that. We've got a 6'7" guy, and I'm not sure he's really healthy at this point enough to do that. So if we can get a 6'9" guy in there, I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to Dakota. As I tell every commit who's given a solid verbal, please sign on the dotted line when it comes to be that time to do so. And we'll see you. We'll see you next year. So let's get to the game for this week. Texas A&M. Hurst, I got a couple of stats that I'm just going to start saying. And this is going to be from a bucket of stats called Let's Be Sad. Here are reasons why you should be sad about Missouri playing Texas A&M on the road this Saturday. Number one, Eli Drinkwitz has a 6-12 record in true road games. So that's a 33% winning percentage. The games that he has won on the road would be at South Carolina in 2020, at Vanderbilt in 2021, at South Carolina once again in 22, at Vanderbilt once again in 23, and of course at Kentucky last year and at Arkansas last year as well. So those are the 6 wins that he's had on the road in 4 full seasons going on his 5th. Missouri is 7-11 in games against ranked opponents since 2020. Now they've beaten LSU in 20, South Carolina in 22, and then last year they beat K-State, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Ohio State. So really all those ranked wins came in the last year. But to drill down further, Eli has coached Missouri to a 6-10 record in conference road games, and he is 2-6 in road games against ranked opponents. In addition to that, Eli is 6-12 in games that kick off at 11 in the morning Central, which of course is the time that this game kicks off. And, just to rub it in, Eli Drinkwitz is 0-1 all time against Texas A&M. Which one of those makes you the saddest?
Probably the 6-12 all time at 11 a.m. because that's the one. Honestly, that's really the only one that matters in this game to me, because that is an actual time that the game plays. All those other ones are from previous teams, which last year, notwithstanding, were much worse than this team. So yeah, they're going to lose road games because bad teams lose road games in the SEC. They're going to lose to ranked teams because just about everybody loses to ranked teams. This team and last year's team had winning records on all of those things. So I'm, those don't bother me as much for this specific matchup. But the game is at 11 o'clock, and that applies to that record. So I don't know if that has actually anything, if that record is just happenstance or if there's something that goes into that. It's impossible to say. But I'll pick that one.
I mean, yeah, 11 o'clock is usually designated for the crappier teams. They're usually the undercard of the day. And Mizzou has been not great for the first, 3 years of the Eli Drinkwitz regime. So it goes to believe that they would be at 11 o'clock more often than not and probably lose those games. So yeah, I'm with you on that. It also kind of comes down to a preparation thing. I think that's it goes true for the road record as well. When you're beating Vanderbilt and South Carolina as the majority of your road wins, it's like, well, yeah, you should. Now, obviously, Kentucky still counts. Arkansas still counts. I'm not taking away from that, but I'm just talking about it from a staff preparation standpoint. How do you get the kids out the door, proverbially, right? Hurst, you're a father too, as am I. You know the headaches of just getting your stupid shoes on to go to the zoo. And that's 2 kids, right? Now we're talking 120 18 to 22-year-olds plus staff, plus your assistant coaches, and plus everyone else who has to go on there. I know that not the entire roster travels, but you get the idea. Plus getting them into the hotels. How do you double check that? How do you do your walkthroughs in the morning when you're not in your kind of your confines that you're familiar with? Just the whole routine. Like what does that look like? Is that setting up your guys for success? And maybe that's a little too paranoid. Maybe that's a little too sticking your face into the details that don't really matter. But it's something that I always think about when it comes to road wins and kickoff times. How do you prepare for those? How do you get your guys amped? And so those are the 2 that stick out to me.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think looking a little bit more into the teams that they've played too. I mean, they've won the games that they absolutely should have won. Look back at the Auburn 2022, they should have won that game more like because of the way the game played out. Yeah. But you don't expect to go to Auburn on a random year, especially 2022, a 500 season. As a 500 team, you don't expect to go into Auburn and win. The other road games they play at Tennessee, you don't expect to necessarily go in and win at Tennessee 2 times that he lost there. You don't expect to go into Georgia and win the 2 or 3 times that he went there. Other road games, I don't think he's played at Alabama yet. At Florida, I mean, that's another very difficult place to play, regardless of how good the team is. So they won the ones that they should have won. They lost the ones that they really had no business winning, and then the 1 or 2 toss-ups they also lost.
Yeah. So let's pour out the bucket called good time, feeling time. All right. Let's look at those stats. So let's feel better about here. May I interest you into Eli Drinkwitz as an 18-17 record in conference games? Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Better than I probably would have guessed if you had asked me to name it.
It's the first time he's been over 500 since December of 2020. So, hey, good job, conference record there. Eli Drinkwitz is 18-4 when his team is the higher ranked team in SP Plus, of which this is the case. Mizzou under Eli Drinkwitz is 22-20 against P4 opponents in general. I was a little surprised by that when you think of like the BC stinker, but okay, you know what? That's pretty good. Against teams ranked 11-25 in SP Plus. So not your elites, but like you're pretty close there. Kind of the flavor of the year or an older team. He is 5-3 against teams that finish in the 11-25 SP Plus range. Now, A&M is currently in that range. I don't know what they'll end up at the end of the year, but there you go. And then, of course, the famous one, Eli Drinkwitz is 4-1 coming off of the bye week with the lone loss coming last year against a number 2 ranked Georgia on the road, which they almost beat them.
And they came ready to play that game, very much so. They were very well prepared for that game. And it was on the road, which is nice. I mean, they have experience coming off a bye and then going on the road. So that hopefully can translate this year in some aspects as well.
Yeah. Now you could also point out, well, who did he beat off of the bye week? And then I'd have to sit there and tell you it's Kentucky and Vanderbilt 3 times. So, I don't want to have to do that. I just did. I understand that, but you take the stats where you can get them, and they almost beat Georgia last year. So that's something to think about. I think this team has the full attention of Missouri. I don't think anybody on this squad is thinking they can just show up on Saturday and win. And I don't want to go back in time and whitewash kind of how people were talking or pull things out that weren't there. But I do wonder if the attention was straying a little bit in these first 4 games of the year where they go, yeah, we could probably do a C+ here and get the win. And again, I don't want to criticize effort or preparation or any of that, but it doesn't seem like they've been locked in the first 4 weeks. And I'm not concerned about that this week. How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I'd imagine that just preparing for the season all the way back into the summer, everyone, coaches down through the players, were looking at the schedule and had just already marked off 4 straight wins. So like win. Okay, the season really starts against Texas A&M. Now, no matter how hard you try to fight against that, no matter how hard you work and prepare before each game and feel like you're taking seriously, that's still always in the back of your mind. We should win this game. And that's not that. There's no way that was ever the case going into the, in the off season as soon as the schedule was announced all the way up until now for this one. So I am very excited to see what this team looks like in terms of preparation, in terms of what they're going to show on the field, from both from a performance standpoint, execution standpoint, and play calling standpoint, and see if they have held anything back, whether that's just how much they're, the effort level, not that they weren't trying in those previous games, but is there a little more juice that they could pull out, from under a rock somewhere? Is Kirby Moore, or was Kirby Moore hiding any or holding any back of the playbook that he did last year, that all of a sudden, first real big game of the year, pop out some more downfield shots? Not sure, don't know. We'll find out, but I'm excited to see.
No, playing a ranked foe at home when it's a non-conference opponent is a little bit different than playing a ranked foe at home when it's a conference opponent and you're on the road. You should have your attention fully square right here, right now. Kirby Moore scripted plays. Your first, 1 or 2 drives in the first quarter, first 1 or 2 drives of the second half. Not super impressive. I feel like he does a pretty good job, or he has done a pretty good job in the past of adapting as games go on. But it would be nice to get a fast start. And looking at the injury report here, really the only person who's questionable is Speedy Johnson, which, that's not your only guy who you throw deep to, but it's kind of the guy that you'd like to throw deep to. So I don't know how they react to that, what the limitations on the deep passing game is going to be, but that is notable. Did you see the injury list for Texas A&M that they released?
It's longer than ours, that's for sure.
It's not as long as Ole Miss, but it's a tome. Now again, they don't specify if these have been like season long injury lists, or if this is injury happened last week, so that now they're not going to play. But the big one that you got to look at is quarterback, right? And Connor Wegman was the projected quarterback to start for Texas A&M this year, and he did start against Notre Dame. Didn't do super great. Threw 2 interceptions, and then he got injured in their FCS game. And so this kid Marcel Reed took over, and he's been playing since then. And ever since then, Connor Wegman has been this probable, questionable, somewhere in between there, but he's not taking any snaps since then. So he is listed he's listed as questionable. You have running back Ruben Owens, who's already been out for the entire year. Tyreek Chappell's out. He's a defensive back. And offensive lineman who's out. 2 offensive linemen who are out, who I think only one was really projected to start. You do have another questionable offensive lineman, Armaj Reed Adams, who is a Kansas transfer. He is questionable. And then I think that's of your starters. Those are the ones that really count there. But yeah, here's the thing. Texas A&M runs the ball and plays good defense and likes to shrink the game. Who does that sound like? Does that sound like Eli Drinkwitz to you?
Sounds like Mizzou to me.
It's a game that we're going to be used to. Looking at, we've talked a lot about the offensive struggles, the scoring struggles during the bye week and a little bit this week. Looking at the offense here, what are you worried about when Missouri takes the field against A&M?
For Mizzou's offense?
For Mizzou's offense, yes.
I'm terrified of the Texas A&M defensive line absolutely ruining the day of Brady Cook and the entire offense, because they have at least four guys that could individually take over a game. In the case of against Arkansas, it was Nick Scorton, who is a first-round draft pick. He will be a first-round draft pick. That guy is a monster. They've got not one, but 2 Shamars that are both really good, Shamar Stewart and Shamar Turner. And then a whole bevy of 4 or 5 other guys that they can kind of rotate in and out of there. And so that's what I'm worried about. I'm really worried about a strip sack, a couple pressures that get Brady to rush a throw or 2 and hit the line and not see the linebacker sitting there right in the middle of the field. A tip pass that can, just floats up there for anybody to grab. That's what I'm worried about, because that honestly is the one path I see to Texas A&M winning this game, is to destroy the line of scrimmage on defense for them, for offense for us, create a couple turnovers in doing so, flip the field position, and win that way.
Yeah.
And that's really the only way I think that's going to happen.
I mean, the thing that's good for Mizzou is that Brady Cook's one of the fastest at getting the ball out of his hand. It's like less than 2.1 seconds. He does not mess around. Now, part of that is he stopped taking deep shots, which you're probably going to need to take at some point to lighten the load here. But yeah, Nick Scorton is terrifying. And don't overlook the other transfers too. They really nailed it on the transfer portal for their defense. So they got Nick Scorton out of Purdue, Will Lee out of Kansas State. He's a St. Louis kid. Saw Will Lee last year at K-State. He was a nightmare. And then Marcus Ratcliffe from San Diego State. Those are your three top havoc makers, and two of them are in the defensive secondary, and the other one's an edge rusher. Ratcliffe has got like 3 interceptions so far this year, something like that. We've only played 5 games, guys. He's got 3. Like he's very opportunistic. It's going to be a problem. And really, the whole defense is good. Obviously, Mike Elko, their head coach, is a defensive coordinator by trade. He was the coordinator at A&M for a long time. Then he went to Duke. He knows what he's doing when he's fielding a defense. And this one's good. This is the best defense Missouri has seen so far this year by a lot, right? They are 23rd, I want to say. Yes, 23rd overall currently. The next closest was Boston College at 40th. Okay, like this is next level stuff. And you're not going to see it let up. Once we are now in SEC play, this is just kind of the norm from here on out. They are good at stopping everything. They have they are allowing a 38% success rate on the ground. They're allowing a 36% success rate throwing the ball. What do? You run the ball. Right? When the options are bad, no matter what, you do what you're best at. This offense, the offensive line is best when they run block. They are more likely to get a big play if it's Nate Noel carrying the ball. And of course, you do it enough and you start opening up Luther, Theo, Mookie, whoever, for some quick passes and doing it that way. So I think we're going to see a healthy dose of running the ball. Probably Marcus Carroll's going to get a decent amount of touches too. And finish your drives, guys. As good as this A&M defense is, once you get into scoring position, they allow like 4.3 points per scoring opportunity, which is not good. Now, Missouri's only managing 4.1. So like it's a movable object, resistible force situation, but you got to run the ball and you got to finish with touchdowns. Oh God, the more complex this game gets, the simpler it gets. Let's just get good American football, run the ball, baby. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah. I think the key here, well, first and foremost, is to win first down and stay out of obvious long passing downs, because that's where these guys are going to be able to pin their ears back and get after you. And they are really good at that. And you do that by running the ball, obviously running the ball well on first down. I think the way to attack it, especially Scorton, the best way to slow down a really good pass rusher is to run right at him. So if they can get that wide zone run working, it has worked to some good. It's been good in some halves and not so good in other halves. Yeah. If they can get it working on whatever side of the field he is and run right at him, right over him, over and over and over again, that's kind of going to take him out of a lot of those plays, because he's not going to be able to go and make a big play if he's got 2 guys double teaming him, pushing him all the way to the sideline to open up a hole just inside him and the tackle to his left or right, depending on what side he lines up. And I think he usually lines up on the quarterback's blind side for the most part. So I think running right at him is going to be a key. If they can do that successfully, it's going to wear him down, going to force him to rotate in and out a little more often than perhaps he would like. And then that's going to keep the chains moving, keep them out of 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, because that's when it could get really scary.
Yeah. If it's a blitz down, they're getting big plays, they're getting sacks. But it is interesting overall. Their sack rate's only at 4.7%, which is pretty low. And their pressure rate isn't all that great, but it's when they get them into these obviously passing downs, that's when they thrive, which is so weird because that is also the time when they give up the most amount of yards. So it's such a boom bust sort of thing. They're either knocking you out for a massive loss or they're giving it up for first downs. There's just no in between. And I think part of that is they do have a super young secondary. Obviously Will Lee is there, but almost everybody else is like a second-year player, like a true second-year sophomore. Young secondaries do dumb stuff sometimes. And even if you have the most competent defensive line up front, sometimes those baby backs just let it go, let something slip by. So I think in passing downs, that's when you really absolutely have to key in on the DB who was having a bad day, and get that to the receiver that he's covering, so Nick doesn't get in your lap and take you down. So it's going to be a good test. We've talked about Brady Cook possibly having struggles with the in-helmet communication, and that's when you're at home, let alone when you're in the 12th man. I don't know how they're going to manage that, but if you're only getting 9 possessions, you need to make them count. And I know Eli thinks about making them count by making field goals. You got to finish with touchdowns here. Now on the flip side, again, A&M likes to run. And if they're trotting out this Marcel Reed kid, he likes to run. It's kind of like a Mr. Inside, Mr. Outside situation. If you remember those Army teams from the 40s, I know you were alive then. It's okay. You remember them. So Le'Veon Moss, big running back, like 6 foot, 215. He is the main guy. He's already got 3 touchdowns on the year. He's averaging like 6.2 per rush and almost a 50% success rate when he touches the ball. And when he gets contacted, he goes another 4 yards after that. This is just a tough dude to bring down. And then you have Marcel Reed, who's also averaging 6 yards per rush, but has an even higher success rate at almost 55%. And a whole 10% of his rushes go for more. 24% of his rushes go for more than 10 yards. So this is a guy it pops out and he's gone and you don't know where he is. The flip side of that, Janice, there is that he can't pass for crap. It's like a 54% success rate, or 54% completion rate, and his success rate's like at 41%. So it's not good. You got to get these guys to throw. It's the Boston College game plan all over again. You think that this defense can handle this kind of rushing attack?
Yeah. I mean, I think they can. They've shown that they can. This is going to be the best one of I think, at least the ones that's most talented. I don't know if Reed is as fast necessarily or as quick as Castellanos, or even as annoyingly hard to tackle as Pavia was. But he is a good and effective runner. But thankfully, they've had experience going after this guy. If this was the first time they would be facing a running quarterback this season, I would be concerned about it. Concerned about whether or not they're going to be able to spy, figure out when they should spy, when they just need to stay in their rush lanes. But they've done that and done it pretty well, really well against Boston College. Not quite as good against Vanderbilt, but still well enough there. So I'm not as worried about him on the ground. I'm worried about Moss chugging it ahead for 5 yards a carry over and over and over and over again. Oddly enough, though, he did have over 100 yards against Arkansas last week, but he only had 13 rushes, which was very strange. And I watched that game the whole, all the way through live, and I didn't really realize that he had only touched the ball 13 times for it. I mean, he was averaging 8-9 yards a carry that game. I don't know why they didn't give him the ball more that game than they did, because he's not. I mean, he's far and away their leading rusher, but he doesn't have that many more. He has 30 more carries than Reed and 30 more carries than the next leading running back, Daniels. So it's not like he's the workhorse, which is kind of strange for how effective he's been.
Well, I mean, yes and no. He's got 76 rushes, 471 yards in 5 games. Is that right?
Yeah.
Nate Noel's at 69 rushes for 441 yards.
But he hasn't played like 5 full quarters, and they were in the game. They were playing with Boston or Bowling Green 2 weeks ago, all the way down to the wire. So I mean,
you're right. I forgot.
He's played. He probably sat out their second game. They blew out some FCS team. I don't remember who. Yeah. So I doubt he played that full game. But the rest of the games, he's played or had to play every quarter.
Yeah. So Notre Dame, McNeese, Florida, Bowling Green, and Arkansas.
And they've one other thing, they played an extra game. So I mean, that's why they played one extra game.
That's true. Do you remember who Texas A&M's offensive coordinator is?
It is Mr. Colin Klein from Kansas State, who the Tigers played him last year. So they should have some institutional knowledge a little bit. Now I don't know exactly how close this year's team is to last year's team. It's obviously a completely different roster, but the coaching staff has faced his offense before.
Yeah. Optimus Klein, as he was known in his K-State days, he was a converted tight end into quarterback from Colorado, because that's just what Bill Snyder did. He just found bits and bods and put them out there, and they turned into Heisman finalists. He was so annoying to play. And just like every K-State team under Snyder, and of course now Kleiman, just annoying, because you should be better than them in there, and they're smarter than you, and they're better than you, and they're meaner than you. It was an odd fit when you took a Connor Wegman and, like Colin Klein is going to be your OC. Like Wegman's not the guy to like just lower his shoulder and take a hit. I think Marcel Reed is way, way more the flavor of quarterback that Klein likes. So I think this offense is kind of where they want it. And I know they're not putting up 50, against, G5, P4 competition. Neither does Missouri, and they won 11 games last year. You don't have to have 42 points per game to be an effective offense. And like I said, they shrink it down, low possessions, run the ball, play good defense. It works, man. It works. And I think this is going to be very similar to a mid-aughts Missouri team traveling to Manhattan, Kansas, and trying to pull out the dub, because it's just, this team is built to be very annoying, and they have way more talent than K-State did. So it sucks.
For sure. It's going to come down to, ultimately, it's going to come down to, you mentioned low possessions. Who does the most with the possessions that they have versus who commits a turnover or two and loses those possessions? Whether or not the other team comes back and scores points off of those possessions is a little irrelevant, because the number of possessions will be reduced. Just the fact that you are losing possessions and therefore losing field position is going to be a big deal. Because field position, I think, it's not something we've really talked about this season, but it's something that Mizzou has done very well. They have absolutely controlled the field position battle in every game that they've played. They haven't necessarily turned that into points, which we would like to do, but they have, when you look at starting field position for the offense versus the defense, they are always have won hands down all four of those games. That's going to be huge in a game like this, when both defenses are good, both offenses aren't explosive. Who can hold on to the ball and then score points versus who's going to give a short field and make it easier for the offense that is going against a good defense to have to move the ball.
Yeah. I know we talked after the BC game that field position, Missouri's doing the hard things really well, and field position is one of those. The complementary football, I think we talked about that after Vanderbilt too. Currently, Missouri is 5th in offensive starting field position. They're averaging their own 36. That is, again, 5th in the nation. And on defense, Missouri's defense is 19th in the nation in starting field position at 25.6. But I'm really glad that you brought up the turnovers there. As for reference point, A&M's offense ranks 55th. They started at about their 30, and their defense ranks 37th. They're starting at their own 27th. Texas A&M has been very, very lucky with turnovers. If you look at the number of times that a pass has been defensed, or a ball is bobbled, or there is a forced fumble somewhere, you would expect, just with the odds, the computers expect Texas A&M to be about plus 3.6 in turnovers. Okay. That's really good on its own. That's like 16th in the nation if you're a plus 3. What they are right now is plus 6, which is a top 10 team in turnovers. So that's a huge amount of turnover luck. Again, for a team that few possessions, you got to maximize your scoring opportunities. If they are doing that, they've only thrown 2 interceptions all year. They came in the Notre Dame game. If you can just turn them over once, that's the piece of sand, in the machine that all the gears just start freaking out, right? They cannot handle that. You have to create those turnovers. Toriana Pride, Dre Norwood, Christian Williams, wrap your hands around one instead of swatting it away. I don't know. It's got to happen, because they are really good at ball control, field position, defense, running the ball. This is your bread and butter football team, and Missouri's better at that. So the first one is screwed up. It's like kind of what you're talking about, or doesn't capitalize on their opportunities. What do you think, Hurst? What are we talking about from a score standpoint here?
It's going to be low scoring. I do not think either team will break 30 in this game. I would be shocked if they did. Something went really wrong for one side or the other if that happened. I'm confident, though. I'm not. I wouldn't say overly confident, but I am quietly confident in Mizzou in this game that they're going to come out with it. Even if they just break even on turnovers, to be honest, I think they're going to be able to pull it out by a field goal, by a touchdown. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be an ugly game. It's going to be a punch you in the mouth and who kind of flinches first type of game. Who muffs the punt, who shanks a punt. That's going to make a big, a shanked punt that gives 25 yards extra field position is going to make potentially a game-changing possession for the other team in this game. So I think Mizzou protects the ball. Whether or not they force a turnover, that's impossible to say. A&M has been really lucky, and we'll see. But I think Mizzou is able to protect the ball, and they're going to win something like. I think if they break 25 points, they will win. I do not think they will give up more than 24. So I'm going to go 27-20. I think they'll win by a touchdown.
Man,
lots of field goals in this game.
Okay.
Both teams like to kick field goals, and I think that's kind of where we're going to be in for that type of game.
See, I'm thinking the opposite. I like to think Eli Drinkwitz is a smart man. I would like to think that means he does not trot out his first year starting kicker in College Station 6 times. So I was going to say 28-21, also winning by a touchdown, but more finishing your drives with 7 instead of finishing with 3.
That would feel a lot cleaner if it happened that way.
Really would.
I would prefer it that way, but I mean, 27. That's just 2 field goals, and if they're 4th and goal from the 12 because they took a sack or something that far down, you kick the field goal on 4th and 12 from 4th and goal from the 12, unless it's down at the end and you have to get a touchdown. I think it would probably be something along those lines. As far I would be very surprised if he trots him out there for a 55-yard field goal that's not at the end of the half or at the end of regulation.
Yeah. And watch that middle 8. Eli Drinkwitz loves it. Where's the scoring coming in the last 4 of the first half and the first 4 of the second? So we'll see. I wanted to close on this just because as Mizzou fans, we got to just enjoy college football Saturday with no stress because our team wasn't playing. And it was a great slate of games. You never think it is when it's kind of a sleepy week when you're heading in, but when you have those mismatches where you're like, oh, there's no ranked teams playing each other, that means there's more opportunity for upsets. And boy, did we get them. Namely, Ole Miss lost to Kentucky. Same Kentucky team that took Georgia to the wire and got blown out by South Carolina for some reason. And I think a lot of the discourse, and again, if you're terminally online while you do this, that's your problem and mine. But it seems to be the discourse this year is like, wow, even the great teams are kind of bad this year. And I think, that's one way of looking at it. That's more of a negative way of looking at it. I'm looking at it a little bit different. I think we have finally hit enough roles of the transfer portal, enough ins and outs that we're starting to see some parity in a sport that basically had none. What were your takeaways from these close calls of great teams and upsets that we've seen so far?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think of parity off the top. I mean, I kind of thought each one was its own, or almost upset was its own individual thing. In the case of Ole Miss and Kentucky, I think that was Ole Miss having to deal with Kentucky, and we know how terrible that is to do. And it was just terrible on the wrong day for Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is the better team, the more talented team, certainly, than Kentucky is. But I mean, then and there, Ole Miss parity, they historically a very poor program, and yet are at the time were ranked in the top 10, and you could count on 10 fingers the number of weeks that they've spent, or at least seasons that they've even sniffed the top 10 in their entire program history, and they're there, and they'll stay up there most of the season, I think. So I think the parity is there. Miami, Virginia Tech, that crazy game, whether or not you think that should have been ruled a touchdown on the Hail Mary or not, I don't is immaterial. I don't know if that one is necessarily parity as much as I'm not sure. I mean, Miami just isn't amazing. They're good. They're not amazing. Virginia Tech is better than their record shows, I think. And Miami is not as good, but I don't know. I think the parity is there. I think NIL, it honestly plays just as big a part as the transfer portal, because programs like Mizzou, who have the capability and the foresight to set up strong NIL programs, despite not having the historical success that other programs like a Florida, who for whatever reason can't set up a successful NIL program for what a myriad of reasons, I'm sure. That's how that playing field is even. And yes, and players can then transfer to a place they can get more NIL. But I think it's really both. It's both. If it was just NIL, it would change recruiting, but not in a significant way. The fact that a Chris McClellan can leave Florida, come here, get more NIL, be a dominant force, where pre-NIL, pre-transfer portal, he's probably stuck at Florida. And if he's not, he's going to transfer probably down a level to G5 because that's where people transferred when they had to sit out a year or go down, or is they go down because there was a stigma attached to that.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a different feel. College football is different. It's certainly not better or worse. It's just different. And in weekends like last weekend, it makes it a lot of fun because you really don't know what to expect week to week. Even that Georgia Alabama game, I mean, that's not parity, but that game was insane. And I didn't really know what to expect. I kind of picked Georgia to win, but I was not shocked that Alabama won by any means.
Yeah. I just, you go through one cycle of the portal and okay, the kids didn't really understand how it worked. Neither did the coaches. The second time you go through it, okay, now we're doing this again. Now we kind of know the ins and outs, when guys are going to declare, how we now have another staff person whose job is nothing but to basically be a GM and shop these players. And then of course you have the NIL reps and all that management. We're 5 years, 20, 21, 22, 23, 20. Yeah. About fifth year. I think teams are there are teams who are figuring out how to do this correctly. And even if you don't, just on the macro, you are finding players that can play are getting on the field. I think that's the takeaway. And pre-portal, guys who could play were at Alabama or Texas or Florida or Ohio State or Michigan or USC and just twiddling their thumbs, waiting for their turn because they signed a piece of paper when they were 18 and did not want to go the JUCO route. That's how it was. And now, if it's playing time or if it's NIL, whatever the reason, now they can go to a team that's going to put them on the field. And if you can be on the field, you're probably pretty good. So teams are fielding more guys who are good, or at least have some talent so they can get on the field and they can, yes, improve the blue bloods, but also guess what? Elevate G5 programs or bottom feeder power 2, power forward programs. I mean, look at Vanderbilt. Brand new team. Pushing teams to the limit, winning 2 games, already. It can happen like that if you just find guys who can play. And so I think at this point, you're just seeing rosters that have more playmakers on them who can get on the field. And so it's really interesting to me what that means for the dynamic of college football, because this sport hates usurpers. They hate it when a team who is not a traditional blue blood gets good. They automatically go, they're cheating, or whatever. Like they don't like that. And I just think there's going to be more of that. I think there's going to be more up and down movement of teams that get into the playoff or play for a national title. Okay. So like outside of like your elite recruiters, obviously your Bama, Georgia, whatever, they're always going to be there because they always recruit high school super well. However, think of TCU, right? They played for a national title. Then they didn't make a bowl the next year, right? Now you got Washington, who played for a title last year and might not make a bowl this year. And so, the common thread between them is that they were super veteran teams. They had a bunch of graduate students, they were really good, but not elite, but you were experienced and you were good and you were old. And you put it together for one run with a couple additions here from the portal, an older quarterback, some impact bumper crop of transfers. They got super lucky in close games and they played for a title. And then the next year they didn't make a bowl. And I think you're going to see that more often. Maybe less once you get the 6 years out of here, but I think the portal has that effect. Not that Alabama and Georgia are not going to be making the playoff anymore. Obviously their high school recruiting is too good, but that you see teams like Ole Miss, Missouri, Washington, TCU have that jump, make a run with older players who are good and just impact transfers. And I think that makes the sport more fun, frankly.
Definitely. It adds volatility to the top end of the sport, minus the 4 or 5 programs that you mentioned that are always going to be there. Yeah. But then you got your next step down, your programs 5 to 10 that are usually there, your USCs, your Florida States, that are often there and will be there often, but they could also completely tank like a Florida State this year. If they bring in the wrong guys or they lose a lot of guys, they're not insulated to as much as they were previously. 10 years ago, you wouldn't dream that Florida State would start the season 0-3 or 0-4 or 0-3 and lose to, Boston College and Georgia Tech back-to-back years. Now you can see that happening. And then next year they could be 11-0, 12-0 again, just like they were last year.
Never know.
Because they could hit the right transfers next time. They obviously didn't do that this time. When they do have those years where they go down, and there's always going to be a couple of those, then that opens up the room for the Mizzous, the Ole Misses, the Boise States, who the G5 team that top G5 team that gets to get in there as well. So it makes it. I think it makes it more fun, especially from a fan of a team that is not one of those top 5 teams that is always going to be there. And most of the college football fandom is not fans of those top 5 teams. Certainly they have huge fan bases, but still they're those 5 are the minority compared to the other 125, 130 other fan bases. So it gives, if not everybody hope, it gives a lot more fan bases hope and reason to invest their time, their energy, their resources.
Yeah. And I could go down on this even further with, accessibility to the playoff, expanding, opportunities and all that stuff. And the junk proposal that the Big Ten and the SEC get guaranteed spots in the future expanded playoffs. And I'm not going to go down that route. All I'm going to say is that if you want to keep your sport strong, you have to keep interest strong, and you have to keep your player pipeline strong. And it's in everybody's interest if people from all over this country have access to playoff caliber football. I know a lot of California kids are playing in the SEC now. Why? Because they did not view the Pac-12 as a reasonable path to get to a playoff. That's if you want to play for actual championships. Now, part of that was fixed because the Big Ten took the Pac-12. But the other thing is just now there's more opportunities across the board. And you could have a kid who grows up in Seattle or one who grows up in Los Angeles or Austin or, Minneapolis and goes, what, I could stay at home and I could do the same thing. And that'd be cool. So there is no law that says that football has to stay popular. And there's a lot of reasons why it might wane, dip, whatever, in popularity. I mean, baseball and boxing used to be this nation's pastime not all that long ago. So there's no law that says you have to do that. It could dip at any time. So to keep that interest, keep that popularity, make it accessible for as many people as possible, this is a good way of doing it. So yay portal, yay expanded playoff. I won't go any further on that because then I'll just never stop. But takeaway, last word, Nathan Hurst. We're going to leave the people. We'll talk to them sometime after the game. What do you want to say to everybody before we get the heck out of here?
Well, I mean, this week is where the rubber meets the road. Yeah, it was a little bumpier than we had hoped or thought that it might be getting to this point, but the team is 4-0. They're right where we want them to be. But this is the time to buckle down. I mean, starting this week, these are the games that you can lose easily, very easily. And also very little wiggle room. This game is huge for a number of reasons. No less than this one does buy you some wiggle room. You win this game, you've got that wiggle room. We're not going to count. I'm going to spoil alert for you. Neither of us are going to pick Mizzou to beat Alabama and Tuscaloosa in a couple of weeks. So winning this game gives you that wiggle room that you don't have to go in and win an outrageous upset in Tuscaloosa to still feel like you have a legitimate shot at the playoff. This one buys that game. You lose this game, all of a sudden that window shrinks way, way down, way down. It doesn't completely go away, but it shrinks way, way down. So that this one is huge. Definitely the biggest game so far, and it might turn out to be the biggest game of the season. Wherever the trajectory of the team goes, I think this one might end up being the one we point to and say that was the one that sent us up or sent us down.
Please win. That's the show for today. As always, we appreciate the downloads and the subscriptions. You can leave a comment or rate us. We love all types of feedback from you all. You can follow us on Twitter at Matt and H.E. Edwards. He's at Burst to Hearst. And of course, you can follow the Rock M flagship at Rock M Nation and our podcast and outlet at Rock M Radio. We appreciate you tuning in this time. We'll try to do better next time. And until then, MIZ.
ZOU.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning into Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and the benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not the Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.